The massive chamber on Nexus Prime buzzed with alien voices. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for an emergency meeting. The air smelled strange, a mix of different atmospheres that each species needed to breathe. Ambassador Zethkar stood at the center podium. His forearms moved as he spoke, and his scaled skin changed colors with his emotions. Right now it showed deep purple, the color of concern among his people. Fellow council members, Zethkar's voice echoed through the chamber. We face a new situation. A species called humans has discovered faster than light travel. They have entered our galaxy. A wave of chatter filled the room. Some aliens clicked their tongues. Others made sounds like growling. A few species communicated by changing the color of patches on their skin. What do we know about them? Asked Counselor Vexma from the Crystalline Union. Her body looked like living glass, and light danced through her as she spoke. Zeth-Car touched a control panel. A hologram appeared above the chamber. It showed a small blue planet with one moon. This is their home world. They call it Earth. Our scouts report they are a young species. They have been in space for less than 100 of their years. The hologram changed to show human ships. They looked basic compared to the sleek vessels that most council species used. The human ships had sharp angles and seemed to be made of simple metal. How many colonies do they have? Asked General Krickstall. He was from the Hegemony, the most powerful military force in the galaxy. His people looked like giant insects, and his mandibles clicked as he spoke. Our intelligence suggests 12 colonies at most, Zethkar replied. Small settlements. Perhaps a few million humans total spread across these worlds. In the back section reserved for new species, Ambassador Sarah Chen sat quietly. She was human, of average height, with dark hair. She wore a simple blue uniform that looked plain. Next to the elaborate clothing and natural features of other species, Chen listened carefully to every word. Her face showed nothing, but behind her calm expression she was recording everything. A tiny device hidden in her collar sent every conversation back to human command. What is their military strength? General Krickstall demanded. Zeth-Car-S skin shifted to a lighter purple. Minimal. They have perhaps 50 ships that could be called warships. Their weapons appear to be basic kinetic projectiles and primitive energy beams. Several alien representatives laughed. The sound was strange, some high-pitched whistles, some deep rumbles, some clicking noises. 50 ships? Counselor Vexma's crystalline body sparkled with amusement. The Hegemony alone has 10,000 battle cruisers. Their technology is at least 300 years behind our standard, added Dr. Yithrak from the Science Collective. His tentacles waved as he accessed data from his biocomputer. Their fastest ships can barely reach half light speed. Ambassador, Chen finally spoke. Her voice was steady and respectful. Honored council members, humanity seeks only peace. We wish to learn from your wisdom and find our place in this great galaxy. Her words were exactly what the council expected to hear. A young species overwhelmed by the scope of galactic civilization, begging for guidance. The question, said Zethkar, is what we do with them. Absorption into the Hegemony as a client species, General Krickstall said immediately. They can provide labor and resources under our guidance. The Crystalline Union could offer them protected status, suggested Counselor Vexma. They would be safe under our care. Chen spoke again. Humanity would be grateful for any arrangement the Council deems appropriate. The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted to study humans. Others saw them as potential workers. A few suggested they were too primitive to be worth bothering with. Finally, Supreme Chancellor Mordak called for order. He was ancient, even by galactic standards. His people had been part of the Council for over 10,000 years. We have heard all arguments. His voice was like distant thunder. The humans will be granted protectorate status under the Hegemony. They will be guided and protected. Their colonies will be supervised to ensure proper development. The vote was quick. Over 90% of the Council agreed. Only a few minor species abstained. Ambassador Chen stood and bowed deeply. Humanity accepts this generous offer. We are honored to be welcomed into galactic civilization under the hegemony's wise protection. General Krickstall's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Human ambassador, you will receive instructions on new protocols within one standard cycle. Your species will be relocated to more suitable worlds where we can better ensure your safety. Of course, Chen replied. We live to serve. As the council session ended, aliens began filing out of the chamber. They talked among themselves about this minor addition to their galaxy. Most had already forgotten the humans existed. Chen walked slowly toward the exit. She passed groups of alien diplomats who barely glanced at her. To them, she was just another representative of a backward species that would soon disappear into the vast machinery of galactic civilization. But if any of them had looked closely at Sarah Chen's eyes, they might have seen something that didn't match her humble words. There was no fear there, no sense of being overwhelmed. Instead, there was the calm patience of someone who knew a secret. As she reached her small shuttle, Chen finally allowed herself a tiny smile. The shuttle looked old and simple, just like human technology was supposed to look. But hidden inside, its basic exterior were communication systems more advanced than anything the Council had ever seen. She activated a secure channel. Command, this is Phoenix Actual, mission successful. The fish have taken the bait. A voice responded immediately. Confirmed, Phoenix. How long do we have? Based on their timeline, approximately 18 months before they expect full compliance. That should be enough. Understood. Phase 2 is authorized. All units are to maintain cover at all costs. Chen settled into her pilot's seat and began launch procedures. Through her cockpit window, she could see the massive space stations that surrounded Nexus Prime. Thousands of alien ships moved in careful patterns, like a vast dance of interstellar traffic. Each ship represented a species that thought humanity was weak. A species that believed 50 human ships were all that existed. A species that had no idea what was really coming. As her shuttle pulled away from the station, Chen looked back at the council chambers where her people's fate had been decided. The aliens thought they had just gained a new servant species. They had no way of knowing they had just invited their greatest challenge into their homes. The shuttle jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying news of the council's decision to places the aliens didn't know existed. The message would reach human commanders who were already preparing for a war the galaxy didn't know was coming. Ambassador Sarah Chen settled back in her seat and began reviewing her next assignment. There were more alien worlds to visit, more military installations to study, more weaknesses to catalog. The galaxy had just made a choice that would change everything. They just didn't know it yet. Captain Marcus Rivera floated near the bridge window of the New Horizons. Outside, an asteroid field drifted in the darkness between stars. The rocks looked ordinary, just chunks of ice and metal that had been here for millions of years. But Marcus knew better. Scanning complete, Captain, reported Lieutenant Kim at the sensor station. 300 asteroids suitable for Phase 2 construction. Iron content is exceptional. Any alien traffic? Marcus asked. Negative. The nearest hegemony patrol route is 6 light-years away. We're invisible out here. Marcus smiled. That was exactly what they needed. For the past year, human ships like the New Horizons had been cataloging every empty system, every asteroid field, every nebula that aliens ignored. Places where humanity could work without being watched. Begin deployment, Marcus ordered. The New Horizons moved deeper into the asteroid field. What looked like a simple exploration ship actually carried some of the most advanced technology humanity had ever built. Hidden compartments opened, releasing dozens of small devices that attached themselves to asteroids. Within hours, the mining drones were at work. But they weren't mining in any way aliens would recognize. These machines carved precise tunnels, deep into the asteroids, creating hidden spaces where ships could dock and workers could live. Captain, called Ensign Martinez from communications, we're receiving a priority transmission from Anvil Base. Marcus walked to the communication station. Anvil Base was what Command called their secret shipyard hidden in the Kepler Nebula. To the aliens, it was just another human research station studying stellar formation. New Horizons, "This is Admiral Foster." The voice came through clearly despite being transmitted across 30 light years. "Status report. Phase 2 proceeding on schedule, Admiral. We've identified 17 new construction sites in this sector alone. No alien interference. Outstanding. How's the cover holding?" Marcus looked at his crew. Every person on this ship was a volunteer who had left their families behind to live this lie. The aliens thought the New Horizons was conducting basic stellar surveys. They had no idea it was actually the advance scout for the largest military construction project in human history. "The Hegemony Oversight Committee visited last week," Marcus reported. "They inspected our mineral sampling operation and seemed satisfied. General Kriegstahl's aide actually complimented us on our primitive but determined efforts." Admiral Foster's laugh crackled through the speaker. "I bet he did. Any word from the home colonies?" "All going according to plan. The aliens think we're struggling to feed our 12 worlds. They have no idea we're actually supporting over 300 hidden installations." This was the key to humanity's deception. While aliens watched a few obvious human colonies that appeared to be barely surviving, the real human expansion was happening in places no one looked. Asteroid fields became shipyards. Empty nebulae hid massive fleet bases. Forgotten moons were turned into weapons factories. Dr. Elena Vasquez was overseeing one of the most important projects from her base inside Titan 7, a moon orbiting a gas giant in an unexplored system. The aliens thought she was running a terraforming experiment. In reality, she was building the largest military anchorage in the galaxy. "Elena to Marcus." Her voice came through on a secure channel. "How's the hunting?" Marcus activated his personal communicator. Elena had been his friend since academy days, back when they thought humanity would explore space peacefully. "Found 17 new nests for the birds," he replied, using their code for construction sites. "How's your gardening project?" Elena laughed. "Oh, you know how it is, planting lots of seeds hoping they'll grow into something beautiful." Those seeds were actually fusion reactors and particle beam arrays hidden throughout the moon. When complete, Titan 7 would be able to service and rearm 1,000 warships at once. "The landlords come by often?" Marcus asked. The landlords were alien inspectors. Once a month, they smile at my little greenhouse and tell me I'm doing good work for a primitive species. Yesterday, Commander Zixtar patted me on the head and said humans were surprisingly dedicated to simple tasks. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. For over a year, humanity's best and brightest had endured constant insults. Every alien they met treated them like children playing with toys they didn't understand. But that was the price of the deception. Every condescending pat on the head, every dismissive comment about human limitations, every assumption about their primitive nature was another piece of armor protecting the truth. Lieutenant Kim interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, we're receiving multiple coded transmissions. Looks like status reports from other survey teams." Marcus walked back to the communication station. Across his screen, dots of light appeared representing human operations throughout the galaxy. Each dot was another innocent human activity that was actually part of the larger plan. Captain Sarah Mitchell reported from the Vega system, where her archaeological dig was actually a sensor array that could detect alien ship movements across 40 light-years. Commander David Park updated from the Centaurus cluster, where his atmospheric research was building the factories that would produce ammunition for the coming war. Colonel Jessica Wong transmitted from deep in the Coalsack Nebula, where her nebular studies were constructing the most advanced stealth fighters humanity had ever designed. Every report was the same. The aliens suspected nothing. They saw only what humans wanted them to see, a species struggling to understand basic space travel while conducting simple research projects. "Captain," Ensign Martinez looked up from his station. "We're getting a real-time feed from Earth." Marcus nodded. Even Earth itself was part of the deception. The planet looked exactly like what the aliens expected, a crowded world with outdated technology and limited space travel capability. But hidden under the ocean floors and deep inside mountains Humanity was building weapons that would make alien dreadnoughts look like toys. Status of the home project? Marcus asked. 70% complete, Martinez reported. The aliens' monthly inspection flew right over the Pacific construction site yesterday. Their sensors showed nothing but empty ocean. Marcus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had spent decades perfecting stealth technology, preparing for the day they would meet other species. The alien sensors were advanced, but they were looking for the wrong things. The New Horizons completed its survey and began moving toward the next system. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Marcus thought about the massive deception humanity was pulling off. 18 months ago, the aliens had seen 50 human warships and thought that was everything. They had no way of knowing that those 50 ships were just the obsolete training vessels humanity had deliberately allowed them to see. The real human fleet was being built in shadows, in places aliens never looked. When the time came to reveal themselves, humanity wouldn't have 50 ships. They would have 50,000. Marcus walked back to his captain's chair and settled in for the long journey to the next system. There was so much work left to do, so many more secrets to hide, so many more alien assumptions to encourage. But every day brought them closer to the moment when the truth would be revealed. And when that day came, the galaxy would learn that underestimating humanity had been the biggest mistake in their long history. The New Horizons disappeared into faster-than-light space, carrying its crew toward another day of pretending to be what they were not. Behind them, the asteroid field looked empty and innocent. No alien would ever guess it, now contained the foundation of a fleet base that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The hegemony battle group dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Terra system. General Krixtall stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small human colony grow larger on his screens. Pathetic. He clicked his mandibles in disgust. Look at their orbital defenses. 3 ancient weapons platforms and a handful of patrol boats. His aide, Commander Zixtar, studied the sensor readings. Shall we proceed with the intimidation protocol, General? Of course. These humans need to understand their place in the new order. Krixtall had conducted dozens of these compliance inspections with other client species. The routine was always the same. Arrive with overwhelming force, make demands, watch the locals cower, then leave with increased tribute and submission. On New Terra, Colonel Jennifer Hayes watched the alien ships approach. From her command center, buried 3 kilometers underground, she could see everything through hidden sensors placed throughout the system. Admiral Harrison, the fish are taking the bait, she spoke into her secure communicator. Far beneath New Terra's surface, in a command center that the aliens didn't know existed, Admiral James Harrison nodded. Around him, holographic displays showed the real defensive capabilities of the colony. Enough firepower to destroy Krixtall's entire battle group in under 10 minutes. But the aliens would never see any of it. All units maintain cover, Harrison ordered. Remember, we're poor defenseless colonists who are grateful for alien protection. Above ground, the human colonists went about their carefully rehearsed roles. Mayor Patricia Santos, who was actually a retired Marine Corps general, put on her best worried expression as she prepared to meet the alien delegation. The hegemony ships took up position around New Terra. Krixtall sent a transmission to the colony. Human settlement, this is General Krixtall of the Hegemony 4th Fleet. We are here for your scheduled compliance inspection. Prepare to receive our delegation. Mayor Santos responded with just the right amount of nervousness in her voice. Of course, General. New Terra welcomes the Hegemony. We are honored by your visit. Krixtall's shuttle landed at the colony's main spaceport. As he stepped out, he saw exactly what he expected. A small group of humans with outdated weapons and nervous expressions. The colonial militia stood at attention, their rifles looking ancient compared to hegemony energy weapons. Their leader, Captain Mike Rodriguez, saluted awkwardly. What Krixtall couldn't see was that Rodriguez was actually a veteran of the Mars Liberation War, and his primitive rifle was actually a plasma weapon disguised to look outdated. Every member of the colonial militia was a battle-tested soldier playing a role. Welcome to New Terra, General. Mayor Santos stepped forward. She wore simple civilian clothes and kept her eyes downcast in what appeared to be submission. "Human Mayor," Krikstal's voice was formal and condescending. "We are here to evaluate your colony's progress and ensure compliance with hegemony regulations." The inspection tour was theater from beginning to end. Krikstal saw food distribution centers that appeared to be barely meeting the colony's needs. In reality, the warehouses were nearly empty because most of New Terra's population lived in the hidden city underground. He visited manufacturing facilities that looked like they were struggling to produce basic tools. The aliens had no way of knowing these were actually decoy factories, while the real industrial centers were buried beneath their feet. At the medical center, Dr. Sarah Kim played her role perfectly. She showed the aliens around basic treatment rooms while apologizing for their primitive equipment. "We're doing our best with what we have," she told Krikstal. "Perhaps the hegemony could help us obtain better medical supplies." Krikstar made notes on his datapad. "The hegemony provides what client species need, not what they want." Dr. Kim nodded humbly. What the aliens didn't know was that New Terra's real medical facility was 50 floors underground, with technology more advanced than anything in hegemony space. The inspection continued for 3 days. Krikstal grew more confident with each hour. These humans were exactly what the intelligence reports had suggested: primitive, submissive, and completely dependent on alien goodwill. On the final day, Krikstal called a meeting with the colony's leadership. Mayor Santos, Captain Rodriguez, Dr. Kim, and several other officials gathered in the colony's main conference room. "After careful evaluation," Krikstal began, "we have determined that New Terra requires additional hegemony oversight." He activated a holographic display showing new requirements. Food production would be increased by 40%. Half of it would go to feed hegemony forces. Furthermore, the general continued, "This colony has too many people for its current productivity. We will be relocating 5,000 colonists to labor assignments on hegemony industrial worlds." Mayor Santos looked shocked. "General, please, these are families who have worked hard to build this colony. Surely there's another way." "The decision is final." Krikstal's mandibles clicked with authority. "The relocated humans will receive proper supervision and contribute to the greater good of the hegemony." Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his face showing carefully controlled anger. "Sir, with respect, these people came here to build a new life. To tear families apart like this. You forget your place, human." Krikstal cut him off. "You exist at the pleasure of the hegemony. Be grateful we allow you to exist at all." Deep underground, Admiral Harrison watched the scene through hidden cameras. Every word Krikstal spoke was being recorded and transmitted to human command centers across the galaxy. The alien's true nature was being documented for history. Mayor Santos appeared to struggle with the decision. She looked at her fellow colonists with what seemed like defeat in her eyes. We accept the hegemony's wisdom," she said finally. "When do you need the additional food production to begin?" "Immediately, and the labor relocation will begin next month." Harrison had to admire his people's acting ability. They looked exactly like a defeated colony accepting the inevitable. The aliens had no idea they were negotiating with some of humanity's most dangerous military commanders. "If I may ask," Dr. Kim spoke up hesitantly, "what happens if we can't meet these new requirements?" Krikstal's skin changed to a darker color, a sign of threat among his people. "Then we will find humans who can. This colony exists to serve the hegemony, not the other way around." The meeting ended with the colonists promising to comply with all demands. Krikstal and his delegation returned to their ships, satisfied with another successful intimidation. As the hegemony battle group prepared to leave, Krikstal sent a message to High Command. "New Terra inspection complete. Humans show proper submission. No signs of resistance. Colony productivity will increase as ordered." What he didn't mention was the strange feeling he'd had during the final day. Something about the way the humans had looked at him. Not quite fear, not quite submission, almost like they were studying him. But that was impossible. These were primitive beings who barely understood space travel. After the alien ships disappeared into faster-than-light space, the colonists dropped their act. Mayor Santos straightened up, her military bearing returning. "Admiral, they're gone," she reported to Harrison. "Excellent work, everyone. How did our guests like the tour?" Captain Rodriguez grinned. "They walked right over the main ammunition depot 3 times. Never suspected a thing." Dr. Kim added, "General Kriegstall actually complimented me on our admirable attempts at basic medicine. If only he knew I helped design the medical systems on the new battle cruisers." Admiral Harrison emerged from the underground command center to address the colonists. Around him, the fake surface colony was already being reset for the next inspection. "People, you've done outstanding work. The aliens are completely convinced. We're helpless. Intelligence estimates they'll leave us alone for at least 6 months. That was exactly what humanity needed. 6 months to complete the final stages of their preparation. 6 months to position their hidden fleets. 6 months to get ready for the day when the mask would finally come off." As the colonists went back to their real lives in the underground city, Admiral Harrison looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, General Kriegstall was probably writing reports about humanity's weakness and submission. The alien had no way of knowing he had just spent 3 days walking through one of humanity's most advanced fortress worlds, surrounded by soldiers who could have ended his life at any moment. But humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their hidden technology or secret fleets, it was patience, and their patience was almost at an end. Supreme Commander Vashistar of the Hegemony stared at the reports flooding his command center. For the past week, something was wrong throughout the galaxy. "Explain this to me again," he demanded, his ancient voice echoing through the chamber. General Kriegstall shifted nervously. His last inspection of human colonies had gone perfectly, but now everything was falling apart. "Sir, it started small. Trade routes began experiencing delays. Ships reported navigation problems. Communication networks had technical failures." "Technical failures?" Vashtar's eyes glowed with anger. "Our technology doesn't fail." Commander Zixtar stepped forward with more reports. "Supreme Commander, it's getting worse. 3 of our patrol fleets are missing. They just disappeared." "Missing? How does a fleet disappear?" "We don't know, sir. The last transmission from Admiral Thekvar was routine. Then nothing." Vashitar studied the galactic map. Red markers showed problem areas throughout hegemony space. What had started as minor inconveniences was becoming a pattern of systematic failure. "What about our client species? Are they experiencing similar problems?" "No, sir," Zixtar replied. "Only hegemony forces are affected. The humans in particular seem completely unaffected." At the mention of humans, Vashitar paused. The species was so insignificant he had almost forgotten they existed. The humans? Those primitive creatures with their handful of colonies? "Yes, sir. In fact, they've been offering to help with repairs and navigation. Very eager to assist." Something cold settled in Vashitar's stomach. In 5,000 years of commanding hegemony forces, he had learned to trust his instincts. And right now, his instincts were screaming warnings. "Show me the pattern of failures." The galactic map changed, highlighting every incident of the past week. Vashitar studied it for several minutes, his ancient mind working through possibilities. "These aren't random," he said finally. "Someone is targeting our logistics networks, our communication hubs, our patrol routes." "But who could do such a thing?" Kriegstall asked. "No species has the capability to coordinate attacks across this much space." Before Vashitar could answer, every screen in the command center flickered. The hegemony's most secure communication channel was being overridden by an unknown signal. A human face appeared on their screens. It was Admiral James Harrison, though the aliens didn't know his real name or rank. "Greetings, Supreme Commander." Vashtar. Harrison's voice was calm and professional. "My name is Admiral James Harrison, Supreme Commander of the Human Defense Forces." Kriegstall made a sound like laughter. "Human Defense Forces? You mean those 50 obsolete ships?" Harrison smiled slightly. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding about our capabilities. For the past 18 months, your species has been observing what we wanted you to see." The screen split, showing images from across the galaxy. Massive human fleets were emerging from nebulae, asteroid fields, and empty space. Ships that dwarfed anything in hegemony arsenals moved into formation, around alien worlds. Vashtar felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear. "This is impossible," he whispered. Your intelligence report showed exactly what we designed them to show." Harrison interrupted. "While you watched 12 struggling colonies, we built 300 military installations. While you counted 50 obsolete ships, we constructed fleets that could reshape this galaxy." The images kept changing. Human shipyards that could build 1,000 vessels at once. Weapons platforms hidden inside moons. Defensive networks that spanned entire star systems. General Krixtal's mandibles clicked frantically. "You're bluffing. Humans are primitive. I've seen your colonies myself." "Yes, you have," Harrison agreed. "You've seen exactly what we wanted you to see. Tell me, General, do you remember your inspection of New Terra?" A new image appeared, surveillance footage of Krixtal walking through the human colony. But this time, the image showed what was really happening. Underground levels filled with advanced technology. Weapon systems tracking his every move. Soldiers who could have eliminated his entire delegation without breaking stride. "You spent 3 days touring one of our most advanced military installations," Harrison continued. "At any moment, we could have ended your life and destroyed your entire battle group. Instead, we offered you tea and apologized for our primitive facilities." Vashtar's ancient hands trembled as the scope of the deception became clear. "What do you want?" "Nothing complicated," Harrison replied. "We want to be left alone." Another voice joined the conversation. Ambassador Sarah Chen appeared, on screen next to Harrison, but she wasn't wearing the humble civilian clothes the Council remembered. Now she wore the uniform of a fleet admiral. "Some of you may remember me from the Galactic Council," Chen said. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen, Commander of Human Intelligence Operations. For 18 months, I've been cataloging your military installations, studying your technology and mapping your weaknesses." The screens around the command center began displaying detailed information about hegemony bases, fleet positions, and defensive capabilities. Information that should have been impossible for humans to obtain. "How?" Vashtar's voice was barely a whisper. "You underestimated us," Chen replied simply. "You saw what you expected to see, a primitive species grateful for your guidance. You never looked deeper because you couldn't imagine we were capable of more." Harrison took over again. "Every species in this galaxy has made the same mistake. You've all assumed that advanced technology means advanced intelligence. That age means wisdom. That size means strength." The view shifted to show human fleets positioned around major alien worlds. Not just hegemony worlds. Every species that had participated in humanity's subjugation was now under human guns. "We've spent 2 years studying each of your species," Harrison continued. "We know your strengths, your weaknesses, your fears. We know which worlds you can't afford to lose, which trade routes keep your economies functioning, which installations are critical to your military power." Supreme Commander Vashtar straightened in his command chair. Even facing defeat, his pride remained intact. "So you reveal yourselves. You think to conquer us through deception and treachery? Conquer you?" Harrison looked genuinely surprised. "Commander, we don't want to conquer anyone. We just want to be left alone to live our lives in peace." "Then why this demonstration of force?" "Because the alternative to negotiation is elimination." Harrison's voice became cold. "Every species in this galaxy participated in our subjugation. You divided our people, treated us like property, and planned to scatter us across your worlds as slave labor." The screens showed recordings from the original council session, alien voices discussing humanity's fate as if they were livestock, to be distributed. "We could destroy every one of your civilizations," Harrison continued. "Our technology is specifically designed to counter your defenses. Our fleets are positioned to strike every critical target simultaneously. We could end this war before you even realize it has begun. But," Admiral Chen added, "we prefer a different solution." A new image appeared. a section of the galaxy marked in blue. Humanity will withdraw to this region, Chen explained. We'll establish our own borders and govern ourselves. Any species that wishes to trade with us as equals is welcome. Those who continue to think of us as primitives or potential slaves will be discouraged from approaching. General Krikstal found his voice. And if we refuse? Harrison's expression didn't change. Then you'll discover just how thorough our preparations have been. We've had 18 months to study your species, General. We know exactly how to hurt you in ways you can't recover from. You're threatening genocide, Vashatar accused. No, Harrison replied. We're offering you a choice. Coexist with us as equals, or discover what happens when humans decide they've been patient long enough. The transmission began to fade, but Harrison had one final message. You have 72 hours to respond. After that, we'll assume you've chosen the difficult path. The screens went dark, leaving the Hegemony Command Center in stunned silence. For several minutes, no one spoke. Finally, Commander Zixtar asked the question they were all thinking. Sir, what do we do? Vashatar looked around at his officers. These were beings who had conquered dozens of species, who commanded fleets that could devastate star systems. They had never known defeat. But they had also never faced an enemy who had spent years learning their weaknesses while pretending to be harmless. Send a message to all Council species, Vashatar said finally. Emergency session, full attendance required. As his staff scrambled to comply, the Supreme Commander studied the tactical displays. Human ships were positioned perfectly to cripple every major alien civilization simultaneously. The beings he had dismissed as primitive had just checkmated the entire galaxy, and they were offering mercy. The emergency council session on Nexus Prime was unlike anything in galactic history. Representatives from every major species filled the great chamber, but the usual political posturing was absent. Fear hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Supreme. Commander Vashatar stood at the central podium, his ancient frame seeming smaller than before. Around him, holographic displays showed the true scope of humanity's deception. Fellow council members, his voice carried none of its usual authority. We have been deceived, completely and thoroughly deceived. The images on the screens spoke, louder than words. Human fleets surrounding every major alien world. Weapons platforms hidden in places no one had thought to look. Technology that made their most advanced systems look like children's toys. Counselor Vexma of the Crystalline Union flickered with distress patterns. How many ships do they actually have? General Krikstal answered, his mandibles clicking nervously. Our best estimates suggest over 50,000 combat vessels, each one more advanced than our finest dreadnoughts. A wave of panic swept through the chamber. 50,000 ships was more than all the Council species combined. But that's impossible, protested Senator Yuldan of the Trade Federation. They've only been in space for 100 years. Apparently, Vashatar replied bitterly, they've been more productive than we realized. The screens changed to show surveillance footage from the past 18 months. Human ambassadors who were actually intelligence officers. Primitive colonies that were advanced military bases. Simple research stations that were manufacturing centers for weapons of unimaginable power. Dr. Yitharak from the Science Collective raised a trembling tentacle. Their technology. How is it so advanced? They studied us, Vashatar explained. While we saw primitives struggling to understand basic concepts, they were analyzing our every weakness. They designed their weapons specifically to counter our defenses. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every species present had underestimated humanity. Everyone had participated in their subjugation, and now humanity had the power to end them all. What are their demands? Asked Chancellor Mordak. They don't want conquest, Vashatar replied. They want independence, complete withdrawal from a section of the galaxy where they can govern themselves. That's all? Counselor Vexma seemed surprised. That's all. They offer trade agreements and peaceful coexistence to any species willing to treat them as equals. Senator Yulden's voice cracked with desperation. And if we refuse? The screens showed new images, detailed intelligence files on every council species, military installations, economic centers, population clusters, everything humanity would need to target for maximum damage. They know exactly how to hurt us, General Kriegstall admitted. Our supply lines, our breeding worlds, our industrial centers. They've mapped our vulnerabilities with surgical precision. As the council debated, human fleets continued their silent demonstration of power. Ships decloak around the hegemony capital world. Massive battle stations revealed themselves in the heart of crystalline Union territory. Weapons platforms emerged from hiding throughout Trade Federation space. But the humans made no aggressive moves. They simply waited. Admiral Harrison's voice echoed through the chamber as he transmitted from his flagship. Council members, you have 24 hours remaining to make your decision. We hope you choose wisely. The debate that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Species that had dominated others for millennia found themselves pleading for mercy from the primitives they had planned to enslave. Some argued for resistance. General Kriegstall insisted the hegemony could mount a defense. With what? Vashatar asked. They know the location of every ship, every base, every defensive position we have. They've been watching us for 18 months. Others suggested negotiation, trying to find middle ground. There is no middle ground, Chancellor Mordak said wearily. They want independence or they want war. Those are our choices. As hours passed, reports came in from across the galaxy. Human ships were taking position around every major alien installation, but still, no shots were fired. Finally, with only 6 hours remaining, the vote was called. One by one, the great powers of the galaxy made their choice. The Crystalline Union voted to accept human independence. The Trade Federation chose survival over pride. The Science Collective agreed to peaceful coexistence. Even the hegemony, after heated internal debate, chose to recognize humanity's right to self-governance. The vote was unanimous. Supreme Commander. Vashtar transmitted humanity's answer with a heavy heart. Admiral Harrison, the Galactic Council accepts your terms. Humanity will be granted full independence within the specified territory. All previous treaties regarding human subjugation are hereby nullified. Harrison's response was immediate. Thank you, Supreme Commander. We look forward to peaceful relations with all species willing to respect our sovereignty. Across the galaxy, human fleets began to withdraw to their new territory. The massive demonstration of force dissolved as quietly as it had appeared. But the message was clear. Humanity could return at any time. 6 months later, the galaxy had adapted to its new reality. Trade agreements were signed between human space and alien worlds. Diplomatic embassies were established. The species that had once planned to scatter humanity across the stars as slave labor now competed for favorable trade deals with human merchants. Supreme Commander Vashatar stood in his private chambers looking out at the stars. His career had spanned 5,000 years of hegemony dominance. Now, in his final decades, he watched that dominance crumble. Sir, General Kriegstall entered the chamber. The human ambassador is here for the treaty signing. Vashatar turned to see Sarah Chen enter. She wore simple diplomatic clothing now, but he would never forget seeing her in the uniform of a fleet admiral. Ambassador Chen, he greeted her formally. Supreme Commander, she replied with equal courtesy. I trust the terms are acceptable. They are generous, Vashatar admitted. More generous than we had any right to expect. Chen studied the ancient commander. We're not conquerors, Supreme Commander. We never wanted to rule anyone. We just wanted to be free. You could have destroyed us all. Yes, but what would that have accomplished? Dead civilizations can't trade. Extinct species can't explore new worlds together. Enslaved populations can't contribute to the advancement of knowledge. Vashatar felt something he hadn't experienced in millennia, respect for a species he had once dismissed. Your people are remarkable, he said finally. To plan such a deception, to maintain it for so long, to reveal yourselves only when necessary, it speaks to a patience and wisdom we did not recognize. Chen smiled slightly. Humanity learned long ago that the strongest weapon isn't always the biggest gun. Sometimes it's simply being underestimated by your enemies. And now? Now we hope we can all move forward as friends rather than enemies. As Chen left to complete the treaty signing, Vashatar remained at his window. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about assumptions and prejudice. Humanity had emerged from their deception, not as conquerors, but as equals. They had used their power not for revenge, but for freedom. The species that had once begged for alien protection now stood as one of the galaxy's great powers. The primitives who had seemed so grateful for guidance had become the teachers. And somewhere in human space, Admiral Harrison looked out at the stars from his own command ship. The long game was over. The deception was complete. Humanity was finally free to be what they had always been. Not the galaxy's servants, but its newest and perhaps greatest civilization. The aliens had thought they were granting protection to a weak species. Instead, they had awakened humanity's potential and learned the price of underestimating those they sought to control. In the end, the galaxy was better for it. But they would never make the mistake of underestimating humanity again.